opening of class has been officially rescheduled to October, and the Department of Education promises to ensure well-prepared remote and online learning. A big part of the preparations is the need to address the healthcare concerns of teachers and, of course, more sustainable distance learning protocols. But with the unique circumstances of this pandemic, how will DepEd deliver on its task of bringing quality education to the country's youth? We discuss in this episode of the Chiefs. And welcome to this weekend edition of the Chiefs. With us right now are Ms. Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5, and coming online should be Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star from the port area in Manila. And in a little bit, we will be having Robbie Lampay from the One News newsroom in Mandaluyong City. Ladies, good evening and happy weekend.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's start now with the guest. Diretso tayo sa ating guest tonight. Of course, the big
Yes,
story
oo.
tonight, today, is the rescheduling of the opening of school year 2020 to 2021 from October 24. I'm sorry, from August 24 to October 5. So that's more than a month postponement. So we have for tonight our first guest, the Department of Education Undersecretary Nepomuceno Malaluan. Attorney Malaluan is now joining us. Sir, hi po. Good evening and thank you for joining us in the Chiefs.
Yes, good evening and good morning to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
You bet. Good morning.
Good
Bakit
morning.
good morning?
Yeah.
For our viewers, saan ba umaga ngayon?
Bukas.
Wala namang umaga ngayon na. Anyway, for the replay, sige, for the replay. Okay, Yusek, ano po kasi, until the last minute, we were hearing that the Department of Education was determined to pursue the opening of classes in just a little bit more than a week, August 24. Tapos biglang kanina, we understand it was reset to October 5. Ano po, what was the clincher or what was the one thing that you might say swung the vote bigla to October 5?
No, actually, what triggered this was the imposition of the MECQ in quite a big area, a significant area, that's NCR and nearby provinces in Region 4A as well as Region 3, Bulacan. And as early as August 6, the Secretary has already submitted uh, a memorandum to the President on the school opening, reflecting her assessment of the latest development. But until the President has made his a position or decision, of course, our existing assumption is that the original school calendar was there. So that was part of their deliberative process. We would have wanted an update meeting to have happened last week, but the president was in, I understand, not in Manila, and so the secretary had no opportunity. And we received his response to the submission of the secretary last August 6 this morning, and
Okay.
so that was announced immediately by the secretary in the afternoon.
Okay, so the push to have it deferred was came as early as last week pa.
On August 6, but the secretary, as part of the deliberative process, did not disclose that. That was an offshoot also of meetings that she had with our regional directors and the executive committee. I believe that she presented the president with a number of options and trade-offs, among which is October 5. And, yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
The reason cited was, well, there were logistical limitations.
Oop, we lost Lucy. I'm sure Lucy will come back in a while. Well, Yusek, sundutan ko yan po. Kasi ang sabi kanina sa amin ng reporter namin na according to DepEd, ang specifically request nito is Region 4A, which is Calabarzon and NCR. Now, combined, that constitutes mga 6 million students, I think, which is around a quarter ata of the total student population. Ngayon po, I just found it interesting kasi NCR and Calabarzon, yung 4A, actually diyan nakasentro yung ano yung good telecoms, good public infrastructure, good transport infrastructure, and so on online. So I guess it's interesting na yun pa pala yung medyo problemado. Of course, it's also MECQ, pero one would have thought na mas mahihirapan yung Tawi-Tawi or yung mga ganun lugar like some parts of Caraga region.
Well, because even in Metro Manila and Region 4A, even as you mentioned that the connectivity is highest here and probably the exposure to online modality is expected to be higher here. The reality is based on our learner enrollment and survey form. The households and the learners still prefer a big component, the modular learning through printed modules. In fact,
Mhm.
many of our dry runs would show, even in Avotas and so on, mainly because the access to gadgets as well as the as connectivity is really per household basis in Metro Manila. And the technology might be there, but the household level access is not necessarily there, and that is what is hampered in MECQ. Under MECQ situation, we have to work on skeleton force, and so it's the printing of the modules, the organization of the printed modules into packets of learning resources, and then this will have to be picked up by the parents from the schools. Or for those parents who do not have a capacity to pick them up, they are being delivered. That's the result of the dry runs that we've had. And of course, our regional director in NCR and even in the Senate hearing has expressed that limitation in their mobility and logistic capacity is severely constrained in time of MECQ.
In any case,
Well,
Yusek, here we are. Nandito na tayo. We're now looking forward to October. What's the plan to make the most of this additional time? I mean, anong priority ngayon during this additional time, additional 1.5 months at least, to make the most and make that to have it at least give us the biggest difference?
Well, the directive of the secretary is for those that are not on MECQ to already proceed with including the orientation of the learners as well as the advanced delivery of learning resources to the extent that they are already available. So that we are all systems go on October 5. Of course, there are gaps, and I think those that are lagging behind than the other divisions or even school level or regions might have found some relief in the a little over 1 month that we have extended the opening of classes. So we will take this opportunity to tie whatever loose ends there are. It just gives us a little breathing room, and especially, of course, NCR and Region 4A and parts of Region 3 as well. So uh, we will make the most of it, as you mentioned, and we hope that that will allow for much a smoother opening of classes, even as we say that it was really uh, compelled by the circumstances in
Mm.
NCR.
Because Yusek, yung mga napapansin ng mga tao in the run-up, what they were concerned about, and I think same concerns still with government, logistics, operational systems, but the other thing also was content.
Yes.
Especially yung mga kumalat na mga mistakes, layering mistakes in the curricula, especially being broadcast. Pati ba yung content? Do we have time to fix that now?
Well, the TV and radio that is being worked out by technical working group on TV and radio, headed by Undersecretary Elaine Pasqua as well as Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio. So I certainly hope that they will be working to address the concerns. What I've heard is that the test broadcast focus on the technical aspect, but certainly the content uh, was there, and I hope that this technical working group addresses it.
USEC, we've been talking to teachers, no, and one of their biggest concerns na binanggit sa amin is their safety, their health safety actually. Na marami na daw sa kanilang nahahawa at saka gusto daw nila ng support. Gusto nila ng support, more support from the government to help them to prevent their infection. Ano po yung mga within these several weeks? Ano po yung binabalak niyo to improve protection for our teachers?
We have issued the required health standards as well as the alternative work arrangements, and we have the system in place with our COVID-19 task force that has an expression at both the central office, regions, divisions, up to the school level. Through what we have activated since February was our disaster risk reduction and management system and units, but augmented it with the health side because of the nature of this pandemic. And so there is also coordination with the local government units and as well as the Department of Health and local health personnel. So that is intact, but there are a number of issues that came out lately with respect to how much really is the department putting in as real resources to fund this system. We have a testing protocol that is in place. Of course, that has to include the matter of contact tracing, isolation, and so on. And so this month will give us time to further uh, improve such a system all
You
the
said,
way to the school
you
level.
said excuse me, what they
Yes,
mentioned was their work. Kahit daw walang face-to-face, they have to meet with a lot of parents actually. Yun yung kanilang face-to-face. Yun yung kanilang worry. Are you
yeah, that's
trying to
correct.
address this problem?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. And if you see the dry runs, the health protocols under those face-to-face scenario are in place. The usual of checking of temperatures, wearing of the face mask, and even face shield, the social distancing that happened there. But of course, any exposure, whether with all that safety requirement. Is no guarantee that there will be no exposure. So we also have a testing protocol that is associated with, in other words, indicated by either a symptom or exposure to a known COVID positive. So those are there, but I think the 1 week can be utilized for further discussion with them and checking all the systems at the ground level to make sure that any such eventuality will receive the commensurate and appropriate support from the department.
Okay, Yusek, briefly lang, no? Paano yung 4 million na hindi naka-enroll? Are you going to give them a chance to enroll given that you have more time now? Second question lang, when will this school year end if it begins on October 5? Considering that you have to have 220 days in a school year as mandated by law.
Right now, our enrollment is at 23.28 million. That's about 83.8% of last school year. In the public school, that's a big portion of the enrollments. That's 21.6 million. That's already almost 6% of last year. But you're correct that this is about roughly about 3.8 billion of learners that have yet to enroll based on the figures as of today from the enrollment levels of a year ago. And right now, our main focus is with those that have enrolled, but certainly we will be discussing how to provide learning opportunities for those that were not able to participate. While we have ended the enrollment period last July 15, the late enrollment still holds, and so we are still accepting enrollment on a late enrollment basis. But
Basis.
in other words, we're not anymore actively looking out to increase the enrollment proactively. It's mainly accepting those who would want to be enrolled on a late enrollment basis.
What about the end date for the school
The
year?
end date, sorry.
Yes.
Well, the end date, it will have to adjust accordingly, which will, right now, our last day of classes, if I recall correctly, is about April 30. So with the extension of a little over a month, so that will also adjust accordingly. We hope that
Mm.
we can accommodate, if things normalize by the next school year without having to make the necessary in other words, major change in the beginning of the school year next year, so that we don't reach the election period for
Right.
the next school year. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But
All right.
certainly we will adjust, and we have already directed our curriculum and instruction to submit the adjusted school calendar for the consideration of the secretary.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Education Undersecretary Nepomuceno Malaluan. Sir, thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Salamat,
Yes,
sir.
thank you
Salamat
also.
po.
Thank you very much.
We will just pause for a break, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Chiefs. With us right now is Senator Win Gatchalian, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Basic Education. Senator, welcome to the
Good evening, Robbie. Good evening to our listeners and televiewers.
Hmm. Senator, notwithstanding this postponement of opening of classes, I mean, marami ng trepidations and concerns and anxiety, yung parents, yung students, yung teachers. Notwithstanding this postponement, what are the big themes for you in terms of gaps and things that keep you up at night with regards to the opening of school?
Okay. The most important thing for me is the welfare of our teachers and non-teaching staff. If you go through the process of executing this distance learning, and considering that less than 40% of our students have some form of access to internet, we have no other choice but to go through with the self-learning modules. And the self-learning modules, if you again uh, narrow down step by step how you execute the self-learning module, you will engage the parents to ask them to come to the school and get the modules, or instruct the teachers and non-teaching staff to deliver the modules house to house.
Mm.
And one of the things that I've stressed in our hearing is the welfare for teachers and non-teaching staff, because they will be mobilized to deliver the modules house to house, child to child, and we have to make sure that their welfare is covered. We have the assurance that we can test them, we can treat them, and need be, we can help their families in case of an infection will happen. So what is important here is the security of our teachers when and non-teaching staff when an infection will happen.
Yeah, sir, I mean, representatives nga ng public school teachers over the past week, they were guests here. They were expressing exactly that. They were saying they're vulnerable. At the same time, they might become vectors for transferring the virus from house to house. But so the assumption here, if we're hearing you right, is you're acknowledging na wala yung guarantees, yung safeties and security guarantees na yon. This delay, does it move enough room to work on that by October?
In the hearing and also the answers of DepEd, I can vaguely, the answers are very vague, no? In terms of the assurance that we are giving our teachers. Robbie, in executing distance learning and in delivering these modules, it's like it's like going to war, no? And our teachers are the frontliners. And in any war, we have to assure that our frontliners are well taken care of if they get hurt, if they get infected, and we have the capacity and the capability to treat them. I received some vague answers from DepEd that they do have some form of assistance for our teachers, but we need security. We need to make sure that these are in place so we boost the confidence of our teachers, and when they go out and distribute the modules, they have the confidence that if anything happens to them, government will take care of them until the very end.
So
Pero
thank
Senator, when we were talking to the public school teachers, their concerns were even more basic, as basic as ano eh. Baka mamaya pati ang bond paper silang maglalabas ng pera. Ang reproduction ng modules, sila rin ang magre-reproduce daw. Now, we asked USEC San Antonio ng DepEd in that same episode just 2 or 3 days ago about these concerns. Ang sabi niya, and this is what he told us, USEC ng DepEd. Ang sabi niya, we have Brigada Eskwela, so we will get stakeholders. Hindi naman siya hindi pipilitin ng mga teachers to reproduce, pero also they're factoring in na we only need 1/4 of the actual number of students in terms of modules, and they'll just share it around. In other words, they only need 25% of the needed modules.
Sharing.
That cannot be. This module is called self-learning module, meaning you give it to the child, and with the instructions in the modules, hopefully he will learn by himself. But he can only learn by himself if he has a module to himself.
Yeah.
If he will share
Yeah.
the modules to somebody else, then he will have nothing. Diba?
Oo nga
Wala
po.
siya
Pero
matututunan.
we
It's
are
a
wondering po
very
if that's
basic
clear.
concept, eh.
We are wondering po if that's clear with everybody concerned eh. Kasi we understand that the next day in your hearing in the Senate, parang they gave a different set of numbers naman. Ang sabi naman ng DepEd in your hearing, I think it was Wednesday already, na 50% printing na ang 33% ng schools and less than 50% yung 61% ng schools. Pero this is 1:1 daw. So we're wondering ngayon which is really which. Are we looking at 4:1 or
Okay.
1:1, and
Okay.
at what level?
Okay, government needs to assure the teachers and all the divisions that we have the funds to print the modules 1:1. The mere fact that we call the modules self-learning modules, because the strategy here is for the child to learn by himself,
Yes.
And the instructions in the self-learning modules will be a guide for him to learn by himself. But if you will be sharing with your neighbor, with somebody else, then it defeats the purpose. No, it's not self-learning. That's why the most basic element here is government will pay for the printing of the self-learning modules, and there is a 1:1 distribution of the self-learning modules. Very basic yan. And we cannot rely on the private sector or the NGOs or even the teachers themselves to print the modules because ang laki ang kakailanganin natin dito. In our estimate, we will need approximately about 30 billion pesos to print the modules, no, more or less. And right now, we computed, we have enough funds naman, no, to pay for the modules. Ang importante lang, we download the funds as quick as possible so that the divisions can use it, no.
So you're expecting this to happen during this postponement. Ano pa po yung inaasahan niya? Since you've been monitoring what's happening, you saw the pilot test, you saw kung ano yung mga glitches, yung mga problema. What are you expecting to see? What do you hope the government will accomplish during this postponement?
Okay. From my consultations with teachers and principals, the most basic is we have to make sure that our principals and teachers and non-teaching staff will be confident enough to go out and execute this program. Aside from the modules naman is a function of funds. If you have the funds, we can print the modules. But what's important here is the teachers will have the confidence to go out, execute the distance learning, distribute the modules, and at the end of the month, retrieve the assessment paper so that they will know whether the child is learning or not. If you in those pictures that you flash, you see that the teachers, the principals play a very big role. They come to the school, they organize all of this. So there is some form of interaction happening. That's why I have to commend the president for postponing the classes till October 5 because there's a supervening event, no, which is the MECQ. And the MECQ will prohibit the teachers and non-teaching staff, even the parents, to go out because nakakatakot talaga to go out. If you see numbers surging 6,000, 7,000, nakakatakot naman talaga lumabas, lalo na kung meron kang senior citizens sa bahay. No? The last thing you want is to bring home the virus to your parents or to your grandparents.
They're becoming the new frontliners, no? The teachers.
Correct. Yes, correct, Luchi.
Yes. What long-term legislation, though, are you seeing that is needed beyond the COVID? Because right now, your attention is, of course, on the short term, no? But do you see this becoming an institutional thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Luchi. We have to learn from what has transpired, no, during this pandemic. And we see that the transition from physical face-to-face learning to a self-learning module or a online learning took a while. In fact, when the DepEd formulated the learning continuity plan, that was around April. But until now, we're still printing, we're still trying to distribute it. Some of the online platforms are not ready. So it took us almost 3 months to get this up and running. In a ready setting, no, if you are completely ready, you can transition as quick as 1 week. No, so meaning we have to embed online learning, blended learning, and even this type of modules in our daily learning so that we can transition fast. For example, if there's a calamity, we don't have to take 3 months before we can transition. In 1 week, dapat nakaka-transition na tayo.
In the meantime, Senator, kanina tinanong ko rin to kay Yusek Malaluan, and a lot of people are asking the DepEd right now. So far, we've been talking about logistics, we've been talking about delivery, we've been talking about operations, but ang isang biglang, now that it's being broadcast, nakita yung bituka ng notification system na this is not necessarily new, to be fair. I mean, matagal na natin nakikita yung mga mistakes sa mga textbooks, but now it's become front and center. So we're employing high technology, but it's the same point. We're seeing glaring mistakes, egregious grammar, and so on. What can we do to fix the content of these things. I mean, we're talking about just delivering the items and the papers and so on. But people are now wondering, anong naman ng mga papel na yan? What are we teaching our kids? How can we finally fix content what we're teaching?
Robbie, that's a very good question as well as very difficult to answer, no, and very difficult to solve right now. In fact, when that came out, I thought it was a joke. I thought that someone spoofed the TV broadcasting and put some errors there. But the answer there, it's a systemic problem, no, because those people who created those modules are also people working in our schools, working in DepEd, working in our divisions. And to make sure that there is quality in their output, we have to start from the beginning. Meaning, sa college pa lang where they are being trained, the curriculum design, the quality of the training in college has to be very, very rigorous so that when our teachers graduate, they have that skill or at least the talent to make all of these things and avoid mistakes that can happen in the future. So it's a systemic problem, meaning we have to look at our tertiary education, our teacher education institution, all the way to in-service training, our teachers being trained while they're teaching. The whole system should be looked at because I really believe that we have to start from the basic, make sure that they're being trained in college well, so that when they are now assigned to do all of these things, they will not make mistakes, or the mistakes are not as serious as what we are seeing right now.
Well, I asked because, like I said, not to be fair to this administration, actually, all of these things na akala natin nagbibiro lang, yung pala totoo, matagal na natin nakikita. I mean, there have been pictures of textbooks and so on. But one of the things that people fear, that I heard, is that it's also a problem of, in terms of fixing the system, it's a problem of corruption and transparency in the system. It's the same suppliers, supposedly, it's the same suppliers na kampante na kahit hindi or kahit hindi, they know that they will be supplying and getting. I don't know if that's true. So my basic question is, what about the system of supplying content and supplying our textbooks? Yan po ba naayos na, or is that still a problem? Is we saw
The
still
instructional
symptomatic of that
materials.
same problem?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that crops up quite often, no? And we actually took a look at that also, and we inquired from DepEd about that. And the basic answer is there are errors in our textbook and our teaching materials. And I think if I have to qualify my answer with the TV module that were being shown in social media, if that is true, then we also have to look at the quality assurance system inside DepEd, because all of these textbooks, all of these materials, they undergo very rigorous quality assurance and quality control measures, no, before they're being released to our students. That also is a system that we need to analyze, and whether the people in those quality assurance process are qualified and trained well. No, admittedly, the challenge in training good teachers, the challenge in training teachers that are up to date with with relevant times is really quite a big hurdle, no? And it's a constant evolution that we need to be in check. And we've seen that there's still also a big room for improvement in our tertiary education, because diyan nag-uumpisa eh. If you train good teachers in tertiary education, if the curriculum is well designed in tertiary education, by the time they enter basic education, we won't have all of these problems with quality, with grammatical errors, and all of that.
All right.
Okay. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, maraming salamat po for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Salamat,
Thank you.
sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, we need to take another break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs, and we're now in the final stage of our conversation. We'll veer a bit from the school opening postponement, but still on the pandemic response, we'd like to welcome our next guest, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles. Good evening, Secretary.
Hi, good evening, Ami. Magandang gabi po sa the Chiefs
Yes,
at ang
well,
nanonood ngayon dito.
siguro it's because of the choice of the term used, Big Brother. Medyo maraming mga criticism dun sa dating nung program niya, which is really overseeing the pandemic response of the LGUs, and some quarters were saying that the executive should respect the autonomy of local governments. Ano po yung reaction niyo sa ganung mga dito sa pinaka-latest ninyong program in which cabinet
Absolutely.
members are overseeing LGUs?
Absolutely. Tado naman po natin ang local government's autonomy, no? In fact, in this mechanism, it will still be local government unit-led. LGU-led pa rin ang magiging ang mechanism na to, ang strategy na to is still local government unit-led. Kami ng mga cabinet secretaries who were assigned to the different cities under Metro Manila and neighboring provinces, kami lang po yung parang enabler, kami lang yung nila papunta sa mga national government agencies and the IATF, and we're just there to help, no, and assist them whatever way they can.
Clarify lang, para kayong liaison, like halimbawa gusto nung mayor, gusto ko i-lockdown tong kalyen to. Will the mayor need clearance from the cabinet? Ganun ba yun?
No need, because nandiyan naman po yung nandiyan naman po yung protocols natin na the mayor, any mayor for that matter, has the power to lock down a barangay or a purok or a street basta merong with regional IATF, may coordination with the regional IATF, and in fact some of the things that we can do as cabinet members would be also coordinate with the mayor in terms of providing them with additional data. So kung kailangan i-lockdown yung isang street or isang barangay, then it's a sharing of information and data. But it's well within the power of the city mayor to lock down streets and barangays.
Pero Sec, what if theoretically magkaroon ng conflict in opinion yung LGU, yung mayor, and yung cabinet member assigned to that LGU, just in case it happens? What happens then? Who has the last say?
It's the LGU, syempre, because the mechanism is still LGU-led. Kami, enablers lang kami, tulay lang kami. Kumbaga, mag-assist lang kami. We'll help them in coordinating with the national government agencies. Kasi syempre, whole of government ito. It's not just the LGUs, but they need the help of the national government agencies, coordination needed with the IATF. So yun yung aming role dyan, no? We're not here to substitute for the mayors or the LGUs. No, it's still them. We're just here to sort of assist lang, give them whatever assistance they need, whatever coordination that they need.
Sir, are you not-
if you don't mind, go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah. Sir, okay, are you not busy enough? I mean, we've been talking about the DepEd now and all the logistical limitations, and yet Secretary Briones is now assigned as a big brother, sister to one of the cities. I don't know exactly, but I guess
Big
the question is...
Big sisters. Dalawa sa big sisters sila ng Pasig City.
Oh, yeah,
so it's Secretary Briones and Secretary Berna who are handling Pasig.
That's right. So the basic question really is that really needed? I mean, aren't you busy enough in your departments, or maybe you're not? That's why you're now being...
No, we are. we are. We're all busy.
Well, that's why.
Quezon City pa. Nahuli yata sa bulatan ni Yusik.
Oo nga, lahat kami
Pero alam mo, ang advantage rin po nito, it gives the IATF members also a perspective. No? So ang perspektiba din na po natin will be grounded also in our experiences or the nakuha namin from the LGUs. So the LGUs give us their anecdotal experiences, what's happening on the ground. So that gives us perspective na grounded dun sa LGU kung saan in-adopt namin na LGU, kumbaga. So when we meet in the big IATF, which is regular meeting, meron din kaming dala na bagong perspektiba na ano rin, grounded dun sa experiences namin sa LGU. So it's just not a national level, and it's not just in terms of our mandate or scope, no, per secretary, but also in a matter of speaking, experience on the ground itself. So it's a good mechanism. It's a good mechanism that allows us to bring that perspective, and it cuts both ways, no? Bring it to the IATF, and sa IATF din, mas mapapadali din po namin yung mga nangyayari sa IATF and communicating it properly and coordinating properly to the LGU.
Yusek, I think people can hear the good in this mechanism. As you said, this dynamic now between national government and local governments. You can facilitate now giving data, and you have on the ground insights on what's happening in reality. But it also begs the question of, then how was this working before this was done? I mean, we're already in our 5th month. And so it begs the question of, wait, we didn't, how was the information sharing between national government and local government, and how are the insights of local governments filtering upwards to the national government prior to this mechanism now being put in place?
The usual process would be, for instance, sa Metro Manila, di ba? Ang mechanism natin is MMDA. So MMDA, si Danny Lin, sits in the IAT. So he would give us the perspective of the Metro Manila mayors. The DILG, gano'n din ang perspective sa DILG as far as per region is concerned. Gano'n din yung nangyayari. Then we have representations, or sometimes we meet with the local chief executives themselves, or members of ULAP, or members of these local chief executive groups, no? As representatives of the different LGUs, kasi we can't meet them all in one group, no? But I think this mechanism was also successful, no, dun sa Cebu City, and I think yun ang pinanggagalingan nito when the president appointed Secretary Roy Simatu to be the cabinet officer who will coordinate efforts in Cebu City, and we were able to find success, no, in that mechanism in Cebu City. So much the same way, because the epicenter is NCR right now, and the neighboring provinces of NCR, namely Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, then yun din yung mechanismo na inspired by the experience in Cebu City.
Well, Secretary Duque.
Inspiration. Yung pala inspiration,
Yes.
Cebu. Yun yung inspiration ninyo. Kasi
It was a mechanism that worked in Cebu City. So since now nakatutok na tayo sa Metro Manila and the neighboring provinces, then we opted to use this mechanism para lang mas matutukan din yung ibang mga cities ng Metro Manila.
Kasi
Okay,
ang
you said
tanong ng
maybe
mga
then
tao, ang tanong ng mga tao, and I think this is the concern of the mayors, is there any instance when you can overrule their decisions?
Ano?
When the cabinet member?
No, it's still LGU-led, no? Siguro, the only way we can overrule would be if there are abuses. But kung wala naman siguro mangyayaring ganyan pag maganda yung coordination. And so far, the Metro Manila mayors have been doing well naman. But again, if we need to really help in coordinating efforts between the LGUs and the national government, especially the different national government agencies, then this mechanism will be a tool to help facilitate that.
Yusek, maybe drill down on that point about learning from Cebu. Maybe if you could give a little more detail and some concrete insights on, for example, in the case of Secretary Simatu, when he goes down to Cebu, how exactly did that work? I mean, what exactly did he do? What was the intervention? What was the takeaway for him that is being shared with you in terms of how to deal with local governments on a day-to-day basis? How do you see yourself working starting tomorrow, for example, in coordinating with Quezon City?
Actually, we started na preliminary coordination with Quezon City. So what happens, nag-present po kami ng mga, so I met with Mayor Joy and I was endorsed to her team, her core team, and then may preliminary discussion. So part of the preliminary discussion was ano yung magiging role namin as cabinet secretary, and then we presented some data coming from the IATF, from our dashboards, and then we kind of opened up the floor to ask for what sort of help they need from the national government agencies. So they gave a list of things that they need in terms of data, in terms of support for the laboratory that we want to open, in terms of trying to find how we can up the or increase the health capacities ng mga private and public hospitals, how to ensure that data from the different labs and from the COVID Kaya and DOH is immediately given to the Quezon City government, and then how to increase contact tracing, ang efforts natin for the training of the contact tracers ng Quezon City. So the same way with Secretary Roy Simatu, it's a meeting with the mayors and then asking ano bang mga needs natin dito, how can national government help, and then coordinating with the different national government agencies in terms of providing help, no? And then we drill down to the barangay level, the group level. You look at the numbers, ganyan. So it's both LGU and the national government cabinet secretaries looking at numbers and getting efforts coordinated.
So, syempre, the next epicenter, if not the epicenter already, is Quezon City, no, right now in Metro Manila. And you've been assigned, as well as no less than Health Secretary Duque. So, if this were like taking off from the Cebu experience, what exactly would you be zeroing in on now?
We agreed on a 6-step process, no, for Quezon City, no, during our meeting. So the 6 steps is based mainly on the WHO guidelines as well. No? So number 1 is controlling transmissions. Number 2 is increasing health system capacities and making sure that they're in place in terms of testing, isolation, treatment, and contact tracing. Number 3 is minimizing outbreaks, special settings, like health facilities, transportation, etc. Number 4, preventive measures in place sa mga workplaces natin, transportation and other essential places. Number 5 is importation risks are managed. And when you speak of importation, coming from outside of Quezon City, passing through Quezon City. And number 6 is full engagement of communities, their education, engagement, and empowering communities. So this is based on the WHO guidelines, which Quezon City naman has been following, no?
Yes,
But we'll break this down some more, and then meron kami mga checklist na ginagawa. Meron tayong LGU toolkit that is given to the different cabinet secretaries that we will be bringing also to the different LGUs, and then the LGU and cabinet secretary will go through the toolkit and the checklist one by one and see what are the gaps that are remaining and how we can improve certain aspects dun sa checklist na yun.
Well, kasi si Quezon City Mayor Belmonte, ang reklamo nga niya ay yung incomplete information on the positives themselves, no? For example, how can she be helped in that area by you?
So what we're looking at right now is how to ensure na yung data is immediately given, no, to Mayor Joy and the Quezon City team in terms of those who are swab, those who test positive. No? So from swab pa lang, kailangan mabigay na agad natin yung mga pangalan, complete address, and phone number ng mga those who were swab, whatever laboratory it is, basta Quezon City resident siya, dapat agad ma-deliver yung details na yan sa Quezon City government. Also,
and that means cabinet level intervention, ganon? I mean,
Well, it will
something like
help.
that. Yeah.
Actually, it will help, no? It will help kasi kung cabinet secretary level na ang nakikiusap sa mga private entities, or maybe if it's somebody cabinet level who are now prodding and kind of trying to coordinate efforts, then it will help. Ang nangyari sa mga LGUs, syempre they're so tied down at yung mga day-to-day, they're putting out fires and very micro level na yung ginagawa nila. And that's really the LGU's life, no? So it will help kung merong taga-national na, anong kailangan ninyo, o ganito, yung data, kulang, ganyan. Doon na kami na yung hanap ng paraan para to sort of facilitate those needs.
Secretary, sino ba talaga yung dapat na lead role sa contact tracing? Kasi sabi ng ibang mayors, it should be DOH. Sabi ng DOH, Yusek Verere kagabi, it really should be the LGU. Sino ba talaga?
Well, it's DILG and the LGU. No, that has been a discussion already in the IATF. And as far as contact tracing efforts are concerned, it's really coordination between DILG and LGU. And then dapat ma-share lang yung data. So it's really a data sharing mechanism that has to be enhanced, no? Like for instance, like I said, sa swabbing pa lang dapat in fact, some people say sa triage pa lang. So sa triage pa lang or sa swabbing pa lang, dapat mabigay na yung pangalan, address, and telephone number sa local government unit. So in this case, Quezon City. Para ma-anticipate nila na ito nagpa-swab. So abangan na lang natin yung result niyan. But habang inaabangan natin ang result niyan, which might come 1 day, 2 days, 3 days after, dapat alerted na yung Quezon City para ma-contact trace na yung mga possible close contacts ng pasyente na nagpa-swab. Para kung positive man yun, at least nandun na nagawa na yung trabaho na yun. That will speed up the process, and we will, hopefully, right now nga, ang direct ng IETF is sa swabbing pa lang, sa probable and suspected pa lang, dapat ma-isolate na natin from the community. So it will really, we discussed in the IETF kanina, that mechanism na dapat ang isolation should come in sa swabbing pa lang mismo para to make sure that the whole population in that community is protected from a possible, probable, or suspected COVID-19 patient. So again, that would need very good coordination with the LGUs. No? So ganito, may decision ng IETF, how do we bring it, drill it down to the LGUs? Kami po yung kami yung magiging tulay, and vice versa. Kung may concern din ng LGU, iakyat namin sa IATF. Yun yung maging mechanism po natin.
Okay. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, maraming salamat po and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Sa Quezon City.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Magandang po sa lahat. Thank you.
Okay.
Kayong dalawa ba, kasama ba kayo sa special concerns lockdowns? Kayong dalawang taga Quezon City?
Ito, yung barangay niyan.
Hindi, barangay Tandang Sora, I think is also included. So, Romy, kasama ka doon.
Naipit ako. I mean, Kulyat, tsaka Tandang Sora, wala akong tatakbuhan.
Kaya nga no less than Secretary Duque eh.
Okay, anyway, teka muna, we're preparing for the weekend, pero bago kayo umalis for the weekend, bibigyan ko kayo something to do tomorrow bago tayo magtapos for tonight. Happy weekend. Meron po akong flagging. Pero hindi pa ako
segue?
Ito,
Segueing ka na ngayon,
para po dito, di ba? Look forward, naghahanap kayo ng kwentuhang Korean.
Mag-e-enjoy lang kayo, Dax.
Mag-e-enjoy lang kayo. Pero yung guest niya, umiiyak. Yun. Bukas, alas 9 ng gabi sa Kapatid Network, usapang real life with the original Chief Luchi Cruz Valdez. Let's have a sneak peek.
Ang mami ko, 94 na yan. Pisikal. Pilipino pandesal. Sa tagal mo sa TV, matututo ka mag-makeup.
Wow.
Akala ko may sneak peek ng guest.
Congratulations.
Maganda kayo. Ha? Isa-isahin ko kayo. Usapang real life, ha? Wala
Bukas.
Akala ko yung sneak peek yung guest eh.
Oh, panoorin muna namin yung yung mga pinapaiyak mo bago pumayag yung mga guest mo. Sino ba unang guest bukas? Sino unang iyak bukas?
May hint.
Tomorrow, Casey Concepcion.
Okay.
And Karen Davila. Yeah. Yan.
TV5 to, no? TV5. Hindi sa TV5 to.
Yeah. But I think it will also come out in colors sa signal. Yeah.
Akala ko it will also come out on Channel 2 eh. Si Karen kasi. But that's I mean, in fairness, that's unusual kasi most of the time, most channels will not guest somebody from another channel, especially somebody who is a personality.
Nagbabago na ang mundo. Okay.
Diba?
May scoop ba to? May scoop ba to? May scoop.
Normal na. Okay. Panoorin ang
Sige. Baka susunod yan. Meron ng excuse me po.
Si Michael Enriquez. Pwede.
We look forward to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sana natin yung weekend book.
Okay. Sige, weekend tayo. Yeah, that will be all for the special weekend edition of the Chiefs. We hope others discuss or will keep the conversation going. I'm Edwin Gaupa News.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay and we are One News.